is there more soldiers on the other side of that EMA? Did they go pick up new soldiers? Because, you know, now that it's weak, to kind of give y'all a little background, right? I love trading. I've done trading for a long period of time, and oh, come on, 4:30. Come on. Let's go. Hey, what's going on? Good afternoon, my neighbors. Got a lot that I gotta cover. I clicked the wrong one. Got a lot to cover over here. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. There's a lot that we gotta go through, especially with a little bit of technical difficulties coming from the holidays. You already know, if everything was perfect, then at the end of the day, everything would be perfect. I'll just tell you. This season is going to be very interesting as we get into the quarter. Inside of the chat for Trade Hero, there is a video where I broke down very, very, very detailed items for swing trades. Until we get some of the issues resolved on the, hold on, let me make sure it's still not working on the alert system. Yeah, it's still failing to load. Until we fix that issue, we're going to focus mostly on swing trades. Inside of the video is a lot of March trades in itself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a peek at some of these theses. Let me put that over here so that way I can kind of break some of them down even further. Now that we got a date under us. If you haven't seen the video, it's the video that's linked right above the video that led you to this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it. So the first one was Bank of America. Let me go ahead and pull that up. BAC. All right, let me undo that before I mess my stuff up. Don't want no problems. All right, so Bank of America, if we look over it on the daily, so on that video that was released, it was saying to take some $50 puts. That was as of the 12th, and you would notice that this was a nice little breakdown. So let's look at this here, right? So we got a nice little close on the entry here. Oh, that went a little further than I expected. Come on, don't slow down on me. All right, so we got a nice little close over here. Let me make sure I have my chats where they need to be. And with that close, there was a nice little pop, and you should be at TP1 already. So if you have multiple contracts, good time to take some money off the table, because at the end of the day, this thing can come back around, especially what's going on with tech and the whole entire investigation with Jay Powell. I think the market is going to be very, very volatile. Don't do anything reckless. Let's keep this party going. Let me see if there's anything still available. CRWV, Core Weave. This one is almost ready. It's trying to hold above that level. Looking for a nice little pop above $90.27. If that holds, then we're looking at getting to TP2 at 120. We're looking for 120 calls on that one for, again, March 20th. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to be swing trading, all right? So focus on March 20th. Everything I'm dictating is going to be on March 20th time, all right? Just keep that in mind. All right, Google. Now, this one probably ran away because Google went ahead and hit more highs along the way. You kind of see we was looking for a close above that 333, which it did. It kind of spiked through TP1, which it did. If you want to do something a little bit risky, maybe instead of the March, you get something in February for that 350. It'll probably be a better price. Maybe even the $400 calls, and see if this can hold this level. If it breaks this level or breaks this wick, don't wait for it to get to the stop loss, because that can really liquidate you. So find something with some strong option contracts. I'm thinking about $350 or $400 calls. That should be good prices in that regard. Let's keep this going. We got Oracle. So Oracle sold off quite heavily after their earnings, and they had a dividends play back up, and you can kind of see it try to hold up, but yeah, they kind of gave it right back. But that's why we have levels for. Looking for it to fill the gap, which is this gap right here. Looking for it close above 205, which it failed to do so, and then we got a gap down here. So even if you saw that video from yesterday, you would not be getting in yet because it did not close above the level, right? Because we can't get to TP1 if we can't hold certain levels, right? It looked like they took out the fair value gap, taking out the buy side liquidity. Probably could come down lower. I'm looking at this pivot point at 185. Maybe we'll get a bounce there. If that's the case, we may get another signal for them to sweep the sell side liquidity. But this sweep of sell side liquidity failed. All right, let's go ahead. We got CMG. Now, CMG has been beat up quite a bit. I'm looking for this thing to relatively bounce. Oh, okay, we got another clean entry. So let's go with this, right? So on the 12th, we kind of announced, hey, we're looking for a close above. It's already there. A good price close to the level of 39.83 is what we're looking for. So if you're not already in it, maybe nibble a little bit and see if this thing can hold. In 35 minutes, we're gonna have ourselves a Mariposa candle, and it shows real good strength to the upside. So this could be just straight pure continuation. Actually, let's take a step up. Let's look at the monthly. Yeah, maybe get a nice little recapture of the wick. And you can see that will be tough. That's your TP1. But if we could get to that TP2, we're talking about filling up to $49, maybe even $50. And with CMG, I was thinking about $45 calls. So that is what we're looking at. HL. This one is one of the ones that fell into the screener, but can't be sure about the option contract. But since I got y'all on here, let me do that now and see what this option contract kind of looked like. Because this one, oh my god, I said think, not thunk and swim. All right, there we go. We got think or swim. Oh, this thing already hit TP1. That's going to be very interesting. It's one of the ones that falls into my low category, low price categories, and I just keep these on my radar just in case it gives a nice little opportunity. So let's go ahead and take a peek. HL. With gold pushing up, all the miners are benefiting. I'm thinking about March 20th. Oh yeah, there's like 2,000 in open interest on that side. I was thinking about the $30 calls. The $30 calls are not that great. Oh no, actually it's not great on volume, but the option is not bad. There's 8,000 in open interest on that one. So we're talking about March 20th, $30 calls on this one. Now it hit TP1. We was looking for it to get around 221. Actually, let's do this in something fun so I can kind of show y'all what this game kind of looks like. Let me go ahead and hide this and minimize that and bring this up so that way I can point this out. So this is a daily chart. So we released it on the 12th. This thing went from $1.97 to about what, 40%? So this is like a 40% push before they came right back over here, and then they kind of bounced from this level. That's only reflective because of what is happening on the daily. And that's them hitting that TP1 and profit taking. So if you did miss out on this, by all means, it's perfectly fine. Wait for it to test here. If it holds 221, then you could play for that 25 level. Really, we're looking for 30, and they'll end up being in the money. If it ends up being in the money, I'll give you a little sense of what that could look like. We're talking about a contract that can go from 190 some change to maybe like maybe like 100%. Maybe even 200%, depending on how fast it gets there. All right, so that's what we're looking for. So the option contract looks a little solid. I'm not too disappointed about that. Riot, if you don't know who this is, then that means you don't know a lot about crypto, and that's okay. This one was a really good crypto play back in the days. Nice little W that just happened here. I just noticed that right there. But you can kind of see we were looking for a close above 1598, which is what we end up getting, or 1588. Got a nice little push here, and then you should be at TP1 by now at the finish of that video. Let's go to Alibaba. Baba. All right. Okay, Baba's not too far away. It's kind of like Dylan in the middle. I would say if you nibble light, you should be fine. If it comes back to it, buy another if you can be able to swing that. $185 calls on Baba for March 20th. That's what we're looking at. Moderate risk, we're looking for it to hold above 165, which is right now 170. This is kind of finishing very bearish like, so in 30 minutes we're going to find out. So I would say wait for the pullback. I won't be surprised we come into the gap a little bit. I would say 167 to 165 would be a good entry, and as long as it holds that and doesn't fill this fair value gap, you should be good. Let's go to Citigroup. I really want to talk about this one. This is banks again. And, oh, darn it. Yeah, that thing's already gone. It's gone. That's we was looking for, kind of give you a sense, we was looking for 110 puts, and you could kind of see it came right at the edge of that 110. That worked out relatively well. Now, this was extremely risky because that was an earnings play, and you would have had to get in here. But everything was pointing that it was just tired. And also, we had some bearish divergences that was kind of panning out over here. So it made me very curious. Very, very risky, but they printed. Actually, out of curiosity, let's see what that contract looked like. Ah, man. 110 puts. That thing went all the way. Let's go ahead and pull that up. Pull that on the daily. Let's zoom this a little bit. Yeah, we're talking about a contract that was about 300, and it spiked up to $500 basically. So from like $3, let's just say you got it for 310, 320 to about 5. So let's just say you got it at 475. Good solid move in that regard. So that one really panned out. I don't think they're going to hold that 110 because it has been in a very bullish move. This is more for pullback purposes. I won't be surprised that it just recovers from here and then go retake these highs. So look out for another alert on that one. I would say that one is solved. Yeah, that one is done. Don't even bother with that. We'll call that a W because it did hit our level. Let's go to FCX, Forex. Not Forex, FCX. Freeport McMoran. This is also a gold type play because they are in the materials. We was looking for it to close above 52. It ran away. No, you wouldn't have been able to catch it because when we released the notes to it was on the 12th. So you would have to probably get in here. But that's diddling in the middle. And you already know when they get to that 62, you might have a little tough time. Maybe look for some shorts when it gets there. Earnings is coming up. Dividends is coming up. So there's going to be some sense of a pullback. If it holds that 52, we could probably do it again. And then we'll probably see how gold goes. Walmart. This one hit TP2. Again, did in the middle. It did ever pull back, so you probably would have missed that. It did hit our target, but it never gave us a proper entry. Whenever it gaps up like that without a close above, I do find it apprehensive because they can really fill it in. If you want to be ballsy and really kind of play with it, as long as it doesn't go below the next structure, you could probably have squeezed out like 20-30% depending on how you got in. And then the last one is FJet. Now, this is another one I got to look at the option chain. This fell in my screener. This is Space. I think this is the company that's with Space Force. Hold on. I think I did some research on this. Commercial services. So they engage in the research and development of space flight, pilot training, and aeronautics program. It operates commercial fleet Lockheed F-104Fs. So I guess these are like jet fighters. The company was founded in 2022 in Cape Canaveral. All right. So this was a very interesting one. It looks like they IP. Let me rewind it back. Let's pull it back a little bit. When a company comes out on an IPO, they usually spike up, and you could kind of see this spike right here. Then it does some subsequent spike up as well. Doesn't really usually pan out like this. Sometimes the first one is all you're going to get. I'm going to pull up Coinbase for y'all to kind of point that out. But this is more than likely original founders are taking their money out. That's why we gap down, and they probably have a wait period for a certain period to get the rest of it, and then kind of pull back to here. So right now it looks like all the suckers are out because I don't like IPOs. I never get in and invest on IPOs, but you could kind of see nice little base here. Needed to hold above 1373. Might be more founders that's selling because they probably got in at $1 and they're just taking their money. Very possible, but this is why we're technical analysis specialists. We're looking for it to hold that $14. If it does, then I will play it to 1851. If it holds that and shows some momentum, I'll let my runners get to $25. That is what we're looking for, and that is the case. Very moderate risk because at the end of the day, it's such a small amount. You find a nice little contract. Oh, actually, let's look at that option chain. That's what I want to do. FJet. Let's make sure that the options has some room. Very tiny contracts here. Yeah. If you want to be on the riskier side, get to the midway point of this, and you want to bid like $50 or whatever. But whoever owns the shares, it gets to that level, they're going to be scrambling to buy your contract because that's going to be the best price. But this option chain does not look that well. But so I would say for the most part, this is more a share play than option play. Okay, let me do something because somebody actually asked some questions about metals not too long ago. Let's talk about silver first, and I'm going to run through all the metals itself. Now, silver is on a tear for obvious reasons. It's usually the laggard when it's all said and done, but lately it has been taking off and it's dragging gold with it. With inflation hitting, and plus we got above our 50 mark back here, this thing has been ripping and roaring without any hesitation whatsoever. So right now, do I find silver just a little bit overpriced? It just depends on how you want to look at it. But this is going to be something that you're going to want to watch because a lot of people will short it silver at that 50 mark, and this is the impact that you're getting. I don't know if you heard, they've been calling a lot of future traders margins so that way they can shut their trade, forcing them to sell at these absorbent high prices so that way they can alleviate some of the pressures, and they're changing the margin requirements to hold overnight. So this is a very fluid thing, and to be honest, I'm going to show y'all something as well. So when we did this massive spike up for like 3 months over here in 2011, it started to pull back like 5 months later, and then it just suppressed. I don't know if we're going to get that same action going in, especially with all the talks about BRICS nations and everything else, and everybody's being very speculative. This thing can do a lot of different damages. So just be patient. Don't do nothing reckless, and you should be fine. AKA, same thing with golds. Do not bet against the metals right now. This thing is ripping and roaring. It's above the 4,500 psychological level, which is something I was very curious about. I'm thinking we could probably get to 5,000 before it's all said and done. So that's going to bring us to this level. And if that does happen, then you're going to go ahead and start to see some major selling there as well. Kind of like what happened at 4,500. Let me zoom in. This level right here. This was 43.98, and then it sold. And then when they got to 45.84, then they sold, but they could not make any lower lows. AKA, trend is still intact. It's just a lot of profit taking. All right, and if y'all really into the fun stuff, there's platinum as well. And whenever it decides to give it to me, I want platinum, sir. Give me platinum. There we go. And it's another one in the metals that is just basically taking off as well. So again, this is something you just want to kind of like plot out and plan. And don't forget to chart out the dollar, because the dollar is going to let you know what is going on and around the rest of the world. Because right now the dollar is ripping. I got some levels that I marked off here. This thing is pushing back to the upside. I think someone is relatively lying between gold is still pushing up while the dollar is pushing up. Unless the dollar is backed by gold, which we already know the answer to that, right? Someone's lying. Someone's lying. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the dollar, that at the end of the day, gold is doing something. And if the US dollar starts to pick up, then you're going to get people start to cash out of riskier assets like your commodities, like your equities, and then they're going to go ahead and get into the US bonds, which is going to strengthen the dollar. Again, that's very speculative. I'm hearing a lot of talks about the economy might not actually work out that way, but if you chart it and it follows your rules, that's what you want to run with. Let's see if we can find some shorter swings, shorter day trades, and everything else. I'm just going to run through a couple of the tickers that I've been keeping my eyes on. But that's pretty much what we kind of tossed out there in that regard. Let's take a peek. I was teaching a class. That's why I got dumb money, smart money, and institutions. Let's ignore that for a minute. I think Apple could still break. I know we did pretty much hit a good percentage on those Apple puts, but this thing's starting to look more and more like a bear flag, especially with this sideways consolidation. They might be waiting for earnings. Earnings is at the end of the month, so just keep that in mind. If you're still in it at that point, I'm telling you this right now, you're playing with theta, and theta could kick your butt. Actually, let me pull that option contract. Let me see what that looks like now. That's Apple. We did the March. We did 250 puts. Just copy that, bring it over. Was it 250 puts? Yeah, 250 puts. Yeah. You're fighting against the current because the current is literally trying to jab the market right back down to the downside. It'll be very reckless for you to just see all this profit and then take at least somewhere on the top. We released this. What day did we release this? We released this on the 5th. So let's get back to the 5th. Come on. Why are you not? Very weird. All right, so we released this on the 5th. January 2nd. January 5th. So you're talking about a $400 contract. You got up to 100%, and it gave you 100% the second time without giving you more. And none of these scare you, right? So now you're letting theta eat up the contract. And what was once from 400 to 800 is now 400 to 600. So you got to ask yourself the question, at what point do I just accept what it is? 750 should have been like, all right, here's my warning sign. But, you know, a lot of people kind of operate on hope, and I don't suggest you do so. And you're hoping that this breaks down, and that can cause some issues. So kind of flip this for logical sense. Actually, we'll probably put smart money here. Yep, institutions there. And we're starting to get more dumb money here. But if they can't find a good level, then that means dumb money is going to step in to try to sell lower here. And then you're going to get smart money that's playing the bear flag like this. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm considering, if that's going to be anything worth it. But let's go ahead and keep this going. Intel, nothing to trade there. Capital One Finance, actually, I was going to release a upside move on Capital One Finance, and it did work out, but it was such a tight window. It was January 16th contracts on the 5th. That would have been here. And I was looking for 255 calls, and it shot up to 259. But it was just way too tight, and it had jumped up too quickly. I did not release that. Let's go to Datadog. This thing has been getting beat up, and this thing is not letting it up. Very ugly head and shoulders. I'm looking for this thing to come down to about 104. I would say if you want to be, let's see. Yeah, if you want to be a little bit adventurous on this, you would have to probably buy some time, because this would be more on a monthly scale. And you would be looking for like some $100 puts, maybe towards the end of the year on Datadog. That means we'll be filling this imbalance here, which we're already in it. We need to close below. We break this order block and play down to here. I know I just went to something a lot higher time frame. All right, let's find some swing trades. Shorter swing trades. Jeff, stop doing that. We ain't looking for, not enough long-term trades. AMD, it will look really, really good if it can get back above 227. It gets back above there. This thing's going to look like a very, very interesting W with the MACD crossing right back over. Look for 227 calls. Look for 250 calls when it breaks above 227. That's probably going to be a good short swing trade when that happens. Let's see, Amazon. Amazon is a sense of a pullback. Retesting in an area that I wanted to kind of see, like this 235. I want to see what they're going to do with that, and you can kind of see what they're doing. I don't know if we're going to break right through, but we're going to have a tough time getting through here, right? We're talking about 250 Amazon. Yeah, that would be great. If it gives you a wick here, you can play the bounce, fill the gap, and see if you can get the 250 calls to get up there. I would say good reversal candle off of 235 with a $250 call as soon as it gives you a reverse candle on something like maybe a 45-minute or a 30-minute candle. Yeah, you see how they kind of build in the base. If they did that while touching here, I'd feel a little bit more confident on playing it up and taking out all the sell side liquidity and testing this block. But right now, they could bait. This could be a complete and utter bull trap where they try to like really get them to be bullish, use them as liquidity, and then just dump them to get us back inside of this imbalance. So just be careful there. What time is it? All right, I'll give you two more. It's almost 3:50. Hood. I know y'all love some Robinhood. This thing is in the middle of a chop session. I think it's because they got so high so fast, especially with psychological 150. Look for a Hood I want to see Hood at 100 again. I want to see it at 100. I think there's going to be so much buyers that won't let it get under 100. That will be a better play. But if it takes that sell side liquidity at 140, they might get all the way back up to test that 153, get some new highs, and that could really drive that up. But just be cautious. This thing is overheated. If you don't know what I mean by overheated, if I go over to a monthly chart, you'll see that we just literally broke out of its IPO. Oh, sorry. I did say I was going to do something with Coinbase. So here's a perfect example, and I'm going to do Coinbase as well. So IPO. Everybody that was in before the IPO, I don't know if y'all know, Kevin Durant was one of the first ones that kind of came into Coinbase. Whoever was in it, you could see this massive sell-off was retail traders piling in like, oh, I got to get into Robinhood. And early adopters probably got in an exception with some special privileges and preferred shares. And they got in under that IPO date, IPO amount. And this was probably the release date. Say they had to hold it at a certain point. Massive sell-off. This thing was suppressed to $10 for a long period of time. New investors stepped in. Probably some of the ones that was originally there. Of course, it wasn't returning any money to shareholders. Hence the reason why it came down anyways. Lots of speculation. But where it is right now, plus now they're giving money to shareholders, this thing is very attractive. Same thing with Coinbase on their release. Coinbase, right? Coinbase did exactly the same thing. Whenever it's an IPO, again, we're traders. We're not investors. You can be an investor, but you want to do dollar cost average when it's all said and done. But you can kind of see, bam, IPO. Then nice little consolidation. Bam. I think right here was when the holdover was over and people that were early adopters can start selling. This thing was suppressed to $31 for a long period of time. Look where it is, $255 with a peak at $350. So it's always best to kind of like sit back and watch. Same with splits. Netflix. And I'll leave y'all with this. This will be our last one. Look at this bad boy. Netflix was going completely bananas. Look where it is right now. About a 38% retracement off of its highs after its swing low in 2022. Why? Because early adopters, aka they like to do covered calls, so you just need 100 shares, and based on their exposure, they can get the same covered calls that they were looking for based on the parameters that's set, and they could just go ahead and start taking their profits. When they announced the split, some people already started taking their profits. When it got closer, more people took their profits. At the split, always take profits, because that's what they always do. CMG, take profits. NVIDIA, not as violent, but split, take profit. It just chopped the whole time, and then it spiked to here. Google was probably the most violent. This one kind of cost me, and that's why I kind of came with this rule. When they announced it was around here, plus antitrust. They were getting sued by the European Union. When the suit was dropped, boom, this thing just took off. Don't let IPOs and splits make you have FOMO. All right, that said, I want to say thank you very much for participating. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. My album is out. It's on all streaming platforms. If you want to get your mindset right, I'm telling you, it is a great album. I don't want to sound like Donald Trump, but it is the most wonderful, wonderful album that you'll ever hear. Better than anything else that you'll hear. I'm just playing. All right, that said, I want to say thank you, and I will see y'all tomorrow early in the morning. I'm going to see if I can find y'all some swing trades. That said, later, y'all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.